Hey, welcome back. If you remember last year, I went to Japan and I brought home a kit to make my own wax ramen, or Japanese sample food ramen that you see a lot there. So I was able to make my own at home and I made a video about it. And this year I got to go on another trip and I went to New Zealand. And I really wanted to find something similar to what I did in Japan, where I could take home a project kind of represented that country and do it when I got home. At the very tail end of our trip, we went to the South Island and ended at this city called Oamaru, which is a small town. And we really went there to see a little blue penguin colony come onto shore, because that's where you can see them in their natural environment. But when we got there, it ended up being one of the coolest towns we saw in all of New Zealand. It's really old, has really cool Victorian vibes. They're really into steampunk, tons of art galleries, and their big thing was limestone. There's limestone quarries in the area, and there are a lot of buildings from the 19th century that are built with limestone, so you see lots of limestone buildings. And when we were walking around in this row where there are a bunch of art galleries, I saw a limestone carving gallery. So they had these blocks of limestone just laying out with dollar amounts written on them, and then there was nobody there, so it was just a little box where you put your money into. And they didn't have any sort of instruction there available, but they did have a little display of the steps of limestone carving. So I took a picture of that so I would remember what they looked like, but I still didn't know how to get to that point, how to make them look like that. And I grabbed the limestone and left.
I got my limestone, and it's so messy.
And once I got home to Canada, it was time to start learning how to carve limestone.
Okay, I think I have all of my necessary materials based on the research I've done. I have a chisel set. I don't have all the chisels I'm supposed to have, but I have a feeling I'm not going to do the chiseling anyway, and instead going to use the Dremel, which is not the recommended way of carving this limestone. Some pens to mark up my design on the limestone, a hammer for the chisels.
You also need something to absorb the impact under the limestone that you're carving. I just used a stack of towels, which I thought would be enough.
And then I have my limestone.
I wanted my carving project to kind of represent New Zealand, and the most New Zealandy thing I could think of that might be possible to carve slightly is a kiwi bird. What I used is this little guy, a little stuffed kiwi. I happened to bring him home for my nephew. I didn't bring him home for this project or know that I was even going to be carving a kiwi bird out of that limestone. But it worked out super well because I could kind of reference in 3D what a kiwi kind of the shape was going to be.
I have no idea if this is going to be like a 1-hour project, a 3-week project. I have no clue. I have no sense of how hard this is going to be.
My very first step was outlining the kiwi on the piece of limestone. So I just put my little stuffed kiwi down on top of it and outlined it. I decided I would cut off the 4 corners of the limestone first and get a bit closer into where my drawing was.
That is not the 45-degree angle I was supposed to go at, but it seemed to work. Okay, so these 2 edges came off super fast. This was like 2 minutes maybe. They came off really fast. And then I'm gonna make them sitting like that. Can you see? I'm gonna try. So I'll get up this entire corner. But look at how big they come off.
Boom!
Like, what if that happens when I get to his beak or his feet?
And I was slowly trying to get closer and closer to my drawing without actually getting right up on the edges quite yet.
I gotta say, when I was watching people do this, no one was having chunks like this fly off. I think I might just focus on the outside, his back, basically, and his head. And do the beak and feet last. I will be an experienced limestone carver by the time I get to the beak and the feet. By golly. I wonder if I'm supposed to be doing the sides like this. Let's see. Maybe?
And a little while into this project, night was already coming and it was getting dark out, and I made the very stupid decision to move this project indoors. I mean, I want to say no regrets, but there are some regrets, guys. There are some regrets.
This is how far I have gotten. I've started using exclusively the smallest chisel of the chisels I have. I've been very carefully digging away in there. I'll show you how I did that. And now I'm gonna have to start going on the edges.
It was very square shaped at this point, and so to start the rounding process, I just chiseled off the corners and started to just ever so slightly round it. I did little bits and little bits at a time. I was really being careful at this point. And as I was rounding the corners, I was also working on the edges, which went outward a bit because I was chiseling outward, and I worked on making them be a little more straight. So straightening the edges, rounding the corners, little bits at a time, trying to not make any drastic changes. I went back to the area between the beak and the feet and started chiseling that out a bit more. It was so hard to get all the way through to one edge, so I kind of went back to this part over time as the rest of the kiwi bird kind of took shape and it became easier to get it from the other side. So you'll see me come back to this over and over and over again.
So what I'm trying to do right now is shave the head down and the beak, and I'll do it to the feet too. Make them smaller, skinnier this way than the body, because that's what his head is like, skinnier than the body. So I'll flatten it down on these two planes first, and then round the head, and then continue rounding the body.
So I went in there and started chiseling outward from the neck so that the body would round out and the head would round out above it. Just like I wanted the head to be skinnier than the body, also I wanted the feet to be skinnier than the body, so I did the same thing up there. I just shaved off edges of the feet to make it initially quite a bit thinner than the edges of the body. Trying to do a few chisel pieces on one side and then copying that on the other side, so I was doing everything symmetrically as I went. Really, this whole project is making teeny tiny changes all along the surface of this thing that you barely notice until you've been doing it so long that eventually it's actually a different shape than the shape that you started with, and you don't really know how that happened. That's what this project is. So we're on to day number 2 of carving now. It is now the week, so I only had a little bit of time after work to work on this. On this day, I was really looking for differences in the symmetry that I had missed the first day, and I tried to correct those as I went.
I'm gonna round his butt a bit, but I'm gonna leave it the most thick compared to my little example because I want him to be able to sit upright still.
I spent a lot of time doing this along his body, but I was rubbing either side of him. Sometimes I even did it with my eyes closed. I looked dumb, yes, but it was actually way easier to feel whether he was symmetrical or not.
I've kind of curved the face in a bit more on this side to match this one. And the back needs to go a bit more in on this side to match this one. I'm trying really hard to not spend too much time on one side before flipping it to the other side and making it match. Because it's super hard to figure out afterwards exactly what you were doing.
As I'm rounding him, he's becoming less flat, so he's a little bit less stable on the towels. When I'm chiseling him, he's moving back and forth, which was okay, but it meant that I couldn't hit quite as hard because it had a bit more give than it did when it was totally flat.
It's time to make the beak skinnier. I'm still not going to make the beak as skinny as it's eventually going to be, but I got to kind of get some of it out of the way so I can carve the head. It's funny, I got another day of work tomorrow, so this is where I'm stopping for tonight, and we will see how many days of the week this takes me to finish this guy.
After 2 days of doing solely the chisel, I really wanted to try out the Dremel. I kind of felt like the Dremel, even though it's more powerful, might be more gentle because it's not big taps, it's a bit more steady at least. I started with the Dremel bit that was actually a metal cutter. I know that there's a stone cutter or a rock cutter that's called a diamond cutter, but that was pretty expensive and I didn't want to buy it not knowing if I would need it. This isn't actually a really hard stone, and metal I figure is harder than limestone, so if it can cut metal, it should cut limestone. Could be a bad idea, but I gave it a go, which by the way ended up being fine. It cut through it just fine. I'm sure the diamond cutter is way better, but the metal cutter worked for me. And I went for it, and limestone went everywhere, just everywhere. Limestone went everywhere. The Dremel had a way bigger impact on how much limestone was flying around the room than the chiseling did. It makes sense, it's doing a lot more, a lot faster with a lot more power. But holy, it just went all over the place. So I had to bust out the safety glasses for sure for this. And being inside was just, ooh.
I don't know how to explain to you how much you should not do this inside. Just don't do it.
I was wearing the safety goggles with the Dremel from the beginning, and it didn't take me too long to realize that I also needed to be wearing a mask because I was breathing in so much limestone, it was just caking the air in the room.
Because I care about my health.
And I would say my new rule of thumb is that if a project requires safety glasses and or a mask, you probably shouldn't be doing it inside. But there you go, that's my warning. I did it inside, it is what it is.
New bit? Is that what you call it on a Dremel? Bit? I don't know. I saw this type being used for stone carving, well actually for like rock engraving. So I thought it might be worth a try on my limestone. Let's see.
It's much softer and slower and didn't do as much to the limestone at a time. It didn't have a huge impact on it. But it was good for shaving off some rough edges and getting in more detailed spots.
Yeah, that's like a nice light shade. It's not too intense.
Because it's cone shaped, it was really good for getting in the creases, like the creases of the neck, and shaping them a bit more. And getting into small spaces like between the beak and the feet. That's the only Dremel head, or even it's a lot smaller than the chisels, that could get into that area safely. So it was really good for that. I made the creases deeper and shaved off bumps with the grinding head.
Well, the Dremel has sure made some really fast progress. I don't really know how I'm going to get out what's underneath. Right there.
And the Dremel was honestly, even though it was inside and there was dust everywhere, it was pretty fun. It was a lot more fun than the chisels were. So I was pretty set on making the Dremel work from this point forward. It felt really worth it to me because I felt more in control of what I was doing than I did with the chisels, and it worked so much faster. I had very little hope that I was going to create two separate feet to begin with, but I still wanted to create at least the illusion of there being feet and leg, and the leg is a bit skinnier. So I decided to carve inward, so it was big body, skinny legs, wide feet. And then that was day number 3, on to day number 4. It was starting to feel like I was not making any significant changes. It hadn't changed the way it looked in quite a while. Even though it was going faster with the Dremel, it felt really smoothed out at this shape. I decided my next step should be sanding, because I really didn't know whether sanding was going to make a huge impact or not. Is the limestone so soft that sanding can change the shape of it? Or is it going to be just smoothing it out a bit? I didn't know.
Came like in a 3-pack of foam sandpapers like this. And they're just fine, medium, and coarse. There's no number.
And there's really not that much to say. It was sanding, like you would sand anything else. I started with coarse, went medium, then fine. The sanding really didn't impact the shape at all. It did smooth out almost all of the rough bits. It was pretty good at that, but it's not like I was going to be able to make the head smaller or make the shape of the head more rounded with the sandpaper. It wasn't that strong. After sanding it, I really thought in that moment on this night that I was done with this project. I thought I finished. Thought this is what my kiwi bird's going to look like.
Good enough. Am I right?
But fear not, because I woke up with a vengeance to make this thing better.
We're going back to the slicer, and I'm just going to slice off his back, otherwise I'm not going to do it. I just need to go for it and not be so careful.
I've been doing such small changes this entire time, little bits by little bit, and it was good to go that way because it kept it symmetrical, but it also didn't really change the shape as much as I wanted it to. And I decided that I needed to get the shape first before I worried about any of the smoothing. And I was going to totally undo all of the kind of finishing work that I had previously done, but it's okay, it'll be worth it. The first thing I did is just shave off that hump on his back. I just cut it right off. I didn't really worry about whether it was going to leave lines or whether it was going to be messy looking. Just cut it right off. I'm going for basic shape first, and I'm going to smooth it out later this time. It actually took more time than I thought it would to shave off the hump, because you can't go straight into it wherever you want. You have to do kind of slices at a time and get lower and lower, but quite a bit faster, I think, than the chisel would have been. And then I went in for the head. I wanted the head to be quite a bit smaller than it already was, and it was kind of cube shaped, like a round cube shape, so I wanted to make it more circular shape. So I shaved off the edges of the cube and got it down there real quick, and that made it quite a bit smaller at the same time. And again, did not worry about smoothing it out, because now at this point I see how we're able to smooth things out in the future, so now I'm pretty confident that I need to get this general shape first. And then I went for the body and I reshaped the body and I tried to make it more circular. There were a lot of changes I had to make to the body. It was pretty boxy, so I had to shave off the corners, and I needed the angle of the back to go out like this and the sides to be a bit more rounded, so I did a lot of reshaping of the body. Just kind of hacked at it. Even though it was faster than the chisel, it actually did take some time, and I just focused and shaved off, and I tried not to think about it too much, and I tried to go really quickly. And I was dremeling and dremeling and dremeling, focusing on my work for quite some time. After I got it down to a shape that I liked quite a bit more, I switched back to the grinding Dremel to smooth out really rough bits, and also to get into the skinnier creases that the metal cutter couldn't get into. So the spots like underneath the beak, I really needed that Dremel bit in order to get underneath the beak. And in the feet, I did the same thing again, where I went inwards in the legs so that the feet would look wider than the legs were. And I went into the crease of the neck to make it a bit more prominent. And I shaved down all the major bumps that I could see. I really should have done it this way from the very beginning. This was the way to do it. You need to aggressively get really close to the shape you want it to be in the end before you do any of the smoothing down. That's what I would do in the future. But hey, it's my first time doing it with little to zero instruction, so I mean, it was a learning process. I figured it out, at least at some point.
I think he's shaped pretty well now. I still don't want to put a slit between his feet, even though it would probably look better, because I'm just so afraid of totally taking off his feet. The beak got pretty thin. It curves down a bit more than I would like it to. Curves in. I would like it to go a bit more straight. But as I was straightening it out, every time I straighten it more, it shortens the beak a little bit more, and I don't want the beak to be any shorter because it's already super short for a kiwi. So I'm just gonna leave the beak as is.
I then moved back to the sandpaper and again started with the coarse grit sandpaper and just went pretty rough. Like last time, it's just sanding. There's not a lot to sanding. I did the coarse sandpaper, medium grit sandpaper, and then went to the fine grit sandpaper at the end. And I spent quite a bit of time. It was a lot of sanding. I mean, probably a couple hours of sanding this. But eventually, he was really smoothing out, and I was even seeing the texture of the limestone change because of it, and the feel changed quite a bit. Here is my final product. Not bad for someone who's never carved anything before. I think before and after. So there you go, that's how someone who has never carved anything in their life brought home a chunk of limestone from Oamaru, New Zealand, and carved a kiwi bird out of it. Thanks for watching, bye!